Electronic music was created as early as 1939. Its evolution was influenced by various factors, including the innovation of experimental composers and their studio techniques, the impact of computers, and the development of electronic musical instruments. This video will explore the best electronic music works from the 1960s and the 1970s. Let's dive right in. Doctor Who's original theme is widely regarded as a significant and innovative piece of electronic music, recorded well before the rise of the synthesizers. Its composer, Delia Derbyshire, had to record hundreds of electrical beeps onto tape and then splice them all together to create a bass line or a melody. The end result was a musical style we still associate with science fiction today. We are jumping into a very significant piece called Psych Rock by Pierre Henry, which inspired the theme song of Futurama, the cartoon sitcom that premiered in the late 1990s. Henry's combination of music, concrete and rock and roll was quite gimmicky, yet so powerful it became the main inspiration behind Futurama's central theme, and it found its forever space in pop culture. We're now entering the transition period from sound art to pop and rock musicians, including the Beach Boys, the Tornadoes and the Beatles, using electronic instruments like the theremin and the mellotron. We also see several Japanese musicians producing electronic rock. We have Tomita's Electric Samurai switched on rock, which features Moog synthesizers' renditions of contemporary pop and rock songs, and Osamu Kitajima's progressive rock album Byzantine in 1974. Going back to 1966, we meet pioneer of pop electronica Jean-Jacques Perret. Perret appeared on the US game show I've Got a Secret, where he performed with an electronic keyboard musical instrument called the ondioline, the instrument that's considered the forerunner of the synthesizer. When Perret released the album The In Sound from Way Out, the liner notes read, "Here are a dozen electronic pop tunes. They are the electrifying good time music of the coming age, the switched on dance music that will soon be it. This is the music of the future." In later years, Perret inspired and collaborated with so many notable artists, including Air on the track Remember, David Lynch's favorite composer Angelo Badalamenti, British recording artist and producer Luke Viber, and American electronic music composer Dana Countryman. 2 years later, Wendy Carlos's Switched on Bach helped the Moog synthesizer to become famous. The iconic cover on the record pictures an unplugged Moog modular system and an actor dressed like J.S. Bach next to a multi-track tape with tangled analog synth lines onto it. Another pioneering record that predated several contemporary artists and influenced post-punk, ambient and many more electronic music genres is the debut album of the Silver Apples in 1969. With the greater availability of analog synthesizers and the mass production of Moogs, ARPs and synthes in the early 1970s, synths are becoming a popular feature for musicians. One of the most powerful manifestations of the trend is the synthesizer's adoption in African American music. The Hammond organ has found its business niche in churches, and electric organs and pianos have made a strong mark on the continuums of genres such as jazz, blues, gospel, soul, R&B and funk. Sandra's Moog synthesizer was an essential addition to his interstellar message. Sly Stone continually used an early organ box drum machine on the song There's a Riot Going On. Timmy Thomas's song Why We Can't Live Together has a clear electronic rhythm, and Stevie Wonder's albums from 1972 to 1974 show a new fascination for the Moog synthesizer, especially for bass lines. In the 1970s, studio technology was ripe for experimentation, and the most important experiments in remix culture was fostered by Jamaican club pioneers King Tubby and Lee Scratch Perry. Both artists were described as the dub since Plato and Socrates, laying down the foundations of contemporary electronic music culture. In 1973, Perry's band The Upsetters teamed with King Tubby to release the track Blackboard Jungle Dub. With this move, The Upsetters became became one of the first groups to issue an entire album of dub versions. We're changing scenes and we're heading towards Britain, that also had an important role to play in electronic music's development, with various music scenes across the country and bands like Cabaret Voltaire and the earlier incarnations of the Human League. Brian Eno's sound for Roxy Music and David Bowie, Wendy Carlos's synth classical soundtrack to Kubrick's A Clockwork Orange, and the novels of J.G. Ballard inspired both bands to develop their sound. Roxy Music's debut album in 1972 features Brian Eno's first synth sounds with the VCS3, the same synthesizer featured on Pink Floyd's track On the Run, that also became a key element on the Pink Floyd sound. Then suddenly a new form of electronic pop was created when Kraftwerk scored a US hit with their album Autobahn in 1974. We all know that the band's influence is immense in popular music worldwide, with the first notable examples rising in American electronic dance music, with direct samplings of Kraftwerk songs like Trans-Europe Express and Numbers. And if you ever wonder who is the notable creator who shaped Germany's electronic music, that's the producer Conny Plank. Plank was an early believer in the possibilities of electronic music and electronic soundscape, and his work is credited in many early 1980s albums with artists like Noi, Eurythmics, Michael Rother and Larita Michuko. So the late 1970s was the primary time of planting synthpop as a major chart force that would later set the scene for many of the 1980s production trends worldwide. Of course, we couldn't forget one of the most important music influencers in the history of electronic dance and synthpop music, Giorgio Moroder, the Italian synth pioneer that won an Oscar for the soundtrack of the film Midnight Express, that brought the unique sound of analog synthesizers in disco to international attention with his production work for Donna Summer's I Feel Love. The Moroder hit factor was widely considered the Motown of the late 1970s, with Donna Summer as its Diana Ross. Giorgio Moroder became a top producer. It was sort of like a disco equivalent of Phil Spector. Britain's rising synthpop scene had embraced affordable synthesizers from Japanese manufacturers such as Roland, Korg and Yamaha. The solo artist who brought things to a head in 1979 was Gary Newman with the songs Tubaway Army, Our Friends Electric and Cars. The scene was really influenced by the international popularity of the band Yellow Magic Orchestra. Visage's Rusty Egan was a DJ at the legendary Bleach Club in London and had been spinning YMO tunes for quite some time. Finally, we see acts like Gary Newman, Human League, Ultravox, OMD, Soft Cell and Depeche Mode starting to achieve a mainstream success. We're now entering the synthpop era, and that's another video for a different time. Thanks so much for watching this video until the end. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more.